Hi, if you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. 1, it's free. 2, there's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. 3, Anchor will distribute your podcast for you, so you can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. 4, you can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. And 5, it's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Enjoy! Hello, everyone. Welcome to Marketer Pitch, the news and trends podcast from Vantage, Black and Brown Perspective. I'm Yesenia Reynoso, one half of the squad. And to the opposite end of the spectrum is my good friend, partner, and the marketing guru himself, Corey Davis.
Hey, everyone. Great to have you back, and we're excited to dive into some great topics today.
Absolutely. It's going to be such an impactful and riveting episode, to say the least. And we're just going to dive right into it since we have a lot of topics that we want to cover. But before we do so, quickly, a couple of housekeeping items. Welcome, everybody, the Marketer Pitch family, whether you're listening domestically or internationally. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is volume 22, aka episode I even forgot the volume now, so please the episode now, so please excuse me. Episode 10. There we go. My brain sometimes has
no worries, Fred. No worries. I'm gonna step in there and say and correct you, but I figure you'll get to it. But it's a good thing. We've had so many episodes, we've had so much content that I think it's a blessing that the fact that we're forgetting what number we're on, because we've been talking and debating, going back and forth, and giving our perspective on the industry for actually almost getting close to 2 years, about a year and a half now.
I know, and it really allows us to walk back down memory lane to know that we are now in our second season. This podcast has been up and running for almost 2 years. And speaking of which, since this is indeed episode 10, aka volume 22, we are now including with this one, 3 episodes away from the season finale of Marketer Pitch, the podcast. And so just seeing a light at the end of the tunnel for another season wrap up again brings me a little tears to be shed, but we'll talk about that as we get closer and closer to the date. But until then, welcome to the Marketer Pitch family, domestically or internationally. Again, thank you so much for tuning in. If you're interested in listening to this episode and all previous episodes of Marketer Pitch and the intermission series Freestyle, it's available across all major podcasting mediums and on our YouTube page. Marketer Pitch is also available to listen to on the Helium Radio Network on Thursday mornings at 6:30 a.m. And if you're a fan of Marketer Pitch and us and our content, please follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Marketer Pitch. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Please hit those subscribe buttons. I cannot even tell this enough. We could really use all of the support and your feedback, and leave a 5-star review on any of the major podcasting mediums. Corey, is there anything else that you want to mention before we quickly dive in on this jam-packed episode?
No, I'll just echoing your sentiments. Please rate and review us. Give us that 5 stars. That way, that helps other people find our podcast, and that way it spreads the word out on, just our little podcast from a Black and Brown perspective. But more importantly, I really want to get into today's topics because I know you guys probably know as well, but I have a feeling what we're going to be talking about, and I just want to get into it.
Oh, yes. I think everybody already has an idea as to what we're going to be talking about, and that's going to be in the entree segment. So before we get there, let's quickly dive into our 2 sample appetizer segment, which discusses particular marketing and or PR newsworthy trends topics that that made headwaves over the last week or so. And Corey and I are offering our 2 cents. And so diving into the very first appetizer storyline comes from Nesto, where the food giant came under fire this week for. Oh, we did this last week. Okay, well, forget about that. I thought this was already discussed. Apologies, everybody. Today's episode has been a little bit we're going in different directions. So instead, we're going to be doing a one appetizer segment. And so, Corey, why don't you take it away and talk about a particular article from NPR that should be grabbing people's attention. Welcome back to Marketer Pitch. We're back from our commercial break, and now I'm going to pass it on to Corey, who's going to be giving us further details as to what our appetizer segment is all about. Corey?
Yes. So, hi everyone. I brought this up even though I know you're seeing us hosting this week. I brought this episode, this topic to her because I was very interested in an NPR article that was out the past few weeks that was titled "You're Allowed to Lie," and this is actually about the truth of in political advertising. So, in this article, which is very interesting, and I'll say you have to go to NPR and check it out. It's called "You're Allowed to Lie," but it's about a political candidate named Kari Lake who bought local TV ads in Arizona and saying in the ad, and I quote, "If you're watching this ad right now, it means you're in the middle of watching a fake news program." Lake said in her ad, she also added, "You know how to know it's fake? Because they won't even cover the biggest story out there, the rigged election of 2020, and rigged elections have consequences," end quote. So this is actually in the ad. It went across all of the local TV stations in Arizona. And we obviously, just to start, we obviously know the statement is false. Joe Biden legitimately beat Donald Trump in 2020. Nobody has, no one expert has said that there was fraud, there was anything to overturn the election. But surprisingly, what she said in her ad, you would think that this is illegal. You're not allowed to lie. It's libel, defamation. But technically, it's not illegal. The FCC has a clause which is over, political advertising, but they don't have a clause that the ad needs to be truthful. The FTC, which is over, products, Federal Trade Commission, which is over products such as like packaged goods and alcohol and any kind of products that are being sold, they do have a clause that commercial advertising needs to be truthful. So I just want to get your senior's thoughts and just hear from us to go back and forth on, one, should that law be changed from the FCC? Should we have truthful advertising? And then two, where are we at in a society where I feel like with the culture wars going on and there's so much happening that politicians and activists are legally able to lie, and without and knowing that the general public won't do the due diligence to actually figure out if that's true or not. So I feel like we're getting to a very tough situation where things could be very problematic if more politicians go down this route. So, Yesenia, what is your thoughts? Are you shocked that this isn't illegal?
I still cannot believe that this is illegal. Or legal, I should say.
Yeah.
Legal. Thank you. Today is just it's been one of those tongue twisting Friday days. But anyway, I'm still stunned. And also, I kind of, wanted to sit back, and think about this for a moment. The fact is that as a business, when you're selling a product, you cannot lie. But if you're a politician or a prominent individual with major influential yielding power, that you are able to lie to your audience just to get your narrative across and you won't be held accountable, that right there is is something even I am, cannot fathom, to believe. But as a society overall, we have accepted the fact that lying is better than telling the truth. Why? Because nobody wants to hear the truth. Everybody prefers to be wrapped up in their bubbles and believe what they want to hear. And if you're against that narrative, or if you go on ahead and expose the truth, revealing what's really happening, then instead of holding the individuals who did the evil deed in the first place accountable, you're blaming the individuals who are bringing the cause to light. And so what that tells me, as a PR practitioner, is that we don't take accountability seriously, we don't take credibility seriously, and we don't take factual storytelling seriously. It means that lying and developing misinformation to generate revenue, awareness in the opposite direction, ratings, or whatever it is that from a numbers perspective is going to get your brand or your point across, is more important than informing the general public what is rightfully and truthfully going on. That's why in today's media landscape, the majority of Americans plain out do not trust the media anymore. There is a reason why the reputation of the corporate mainstream media has been damaged, because they, in correlation with these politicians and other prominent business individuals who have power, they control absolutely everything, and they are able to develop different types of messaging that that feeds into the hysteria, the dysfunction, and the total fears of ordinary Americans.
So that, and I get what you're saying. So I totally align and agree with that, Yesenia. So from a societal standpoint and from a goodwill standpoint, this is ridiculous and this should not be the case. But at the end of the day, we're marketers, we're communicators, we're in public relations. So let's put those hats on and take away the morality of it. If this woman Carrie was your client, Yesenia, is this a good strategy? Is this a good strategy, knowing that you legally can lie in ads? Do you think that this is actually helpful from a communication standpoint for getting your ad across and getting your client to goals accomplished? Or do you think in the long run this is not good?
To me, in the long run, this is not good, because it destroys the credibility of the politician.
So she was your client. So I'm throwing out the hypothetical. If Carrie was your client, what would be your messaging to her?
I will my messaging to her will be to stay truthful, to talk about the issues, to talk about the policies, and to not be heavily crowded in this cultural war faux pas. Many Americans right now, up to this point, from a messaging standpoint, are sick and tired of misinformation. But again, and so you need to be able to connect with your audiences from a policy standpoint to inform them factually and address the needs that they're looking for. You don't need to be spreading any kind of misinformation just to scare people. But unfortunately, that's what it is. I always follow my values and ethics. I like to do things truthfully. I don't like to lie to people because down the road, it's going to damage your reputation, and it's going to damage the connection that you have with audiences. And so you need to, as storytellers, you need to be able to tell your story in a truthful manner. Yes, people may not like what you're saying, but you're stating the facts. You're actually being true. You could be critical and factual and still be able to showcase who you are as a person, rather than you lying across mediums and not be held not be held accountable for it.
That's true. And that's all. And I think you said it perfectly. And as a marketer myself, I see the benefits of lying, initial benefits of lying, because you can gain traction and you can get a lot of people on your side. But I definitely agree with you. I definitely think overall your candidate or your client is better set up as being truthful, so that way they can remain authentic for years and years to come.
Misinformation and disinformation, or any kind of false narratives, spread 6 times as faster than factual, truthful information. And it's well aware not only on these these individuals' minds, but it's also aware of these media companies. They know what sells. And so what sells faster? What's going to get them to where they want to be? Through lying. And we have as in the public relations field, since we shape narratives and perceptions, we need to try to figure out ways as to how to make this newsworthy. And so many people from that standpoint try to generate storylines that appease to the audience, but sometimes those storylines are mainly from the negative side, and there is a reason why the today's environment is so incredibly toxic. And to wrap this up, I also feel that because there is such a heavy spread of manufactured consent across all mediums, we as ordinary individuals and as Americans, we lack the critical thinking that we need to properly and correctly decipher this propaganda, because there's an overabundance of it. There's way too much propaganda and journalism that is flooding across our airwaves, that we don't have the tools or resources or the critical thinking skills to correctly decipher what is true from what is false. And that is something that must be pointed out straight up. And so with that, I put the bow on this particular subject. Unless Corey, you have anything additional that needs to be added, and we're gonna go head right into the entree segment.
Yes, I'm excited.
All right. Well then, because of that, we're gonna go right. That's the end of our appetizer segment. If you have any comments or questions or concerns about this particular issue, or topic, I should say, please email us at marketerpitch@gmail.com. We want to hear from you. And now we move on to the entree segment. And yes, everybody's talking about it. It's all over the headwaves. If you have been living under a rock over the last week and you just can't climb out of it and see, what am I going to be looking this week in the news? You already know what we're talking about. Talking about the Oscars. And Corey, this year's Oscars, obviously boring, typical. But one major moment overshadowed the entire ceremony. And we're talking about the slap heard around the world between Will Smith and Chris Rock. So Chris Rock was presenting the Oscar for Best Documentary Feature, and Chris was doing his monologue, offering his jokes, and then he said a very poor, tasteless joke that was directed towards Jada Pinkett Smith and the illness that she is currently battling, epilepsy. Hope I pronounced it right.
Alopecia. It's alopecia.
Alopecia. Thank you, Corey. Yep. Alopecia, and she did not take that very kindly. And Will Smith also was not too thrilled. He ended up getting up on stage and slapping Chris Rock in the face in front of an international audience, and that caused ripple effects to the nth degree that simply is beyond shocking, controversial, and definitely a a water cooler type conversation in the office. So Corey, I gotta bring you in. This is just too juicy, and obviously we'll talk quickly about the other components of the Oscars, because there were other things that we have to mention, including Apple TV's historic Oscar win for the film Coda. But Corey, let's bring you in. Come on, we gotta talk about this. What are your thoughts? Tell me.
Oh yeah. So there's so many different layers to this story and so many different layers to this issue, especially as a African American male, because it's a lot to deal with. So I would say overall. So I will say overall. And when we put a button on this story after this podcast, I never want to hear about the slap ever again. I never want to hear about Will Smith and Chris Rock at the Oscars ever again. There are way more important things that we should be dealing with. We still have a war in Ukraine that's still happening. There's still devastation that's happening.
Yeah.
So I really am not too happy, whereas the general media and the focus has really been on this issue for over a week now. So to that point, but to this particular issue, one, I will say that I do think Will Smith was wrong. I think that just because somebody says a poorly worded joke, like Chris Brown did, or something that you find not funny, you just don't laugh, or you say something to that person after the fact. But to assault someone, to commit battery against someone, no matter what, is wrong and should have never happened. And I believe Will Smith has since apologized for that too.
He did apologize. Go on, Corey.
No, go ahead.
He did apologize, as did Chris Rock, for that slap, and in all.
And I think that Chris Rock was probably shell shocked that this actually happened. And kudos to him for remaining professional. He didn't hit him back. He didn't call him out of his name. He moved on and kept the show moving. So I appreciate that. But from a communication standpoint, what's been coming out from the Academy has been very unorganized, has been halfway offensive, and then outright lying. They went from saying that at the time of the Oscars that it was silent, they didn't say anything the night of, the day after. Then they had a story that they condemned Will Smith, and they're doing an internal investigation, and then they're coming out saying that they asked him to leave, but he didn't leave, which to me doesn't sound correct, because if someone who hosts the party asks you to leave, you will leave. And now they're saying that they were gonna agree to press charges against him if Chris Rock didn't step in. So there's been so many different stories, and I know there's talks of stripping an Oscar from him, where the Academy is actually coming off just as bad as Will Smith, because on certain elements, they look like they're covering for him. And then at certain points, they're looking like they're trying to save their own asses. So I really just want to discuss on those issues. And then between going back to the stars himself, Will Smith, where does he go from here? Where does he pivot from here? Because if I was his publicist, if I was in business with him, so Will Smith has been very marketable. He has a lot of endorsement deals. He has a lot of family-friendly content, and that's how he's always marketed his career. So where does he pivot from this issue? We've known over the past couple of years, there's been talk about entanglement and infidelity in his marriage, and there's been a lot less of the family-friendly dad and more of a typical Hollywood celebrity who has scandals and who freaks out when they don't get their way. So from a marketing standpoint, I'm wondering if brands will feel like pause from Will Smith and they'll take a break from him, or if they're going to continue like business as usual, just like they did with the Olympics when it came to the Chinese genocide.
That is a very interesting take, my friend, and I agree with you on so many different areas. First and foremost, the entire situation overall is a huge mess. A crisis of epic proportions. First and foremost, both Chris Rock and Will Smith were wrong here. Chris Rock for offering that tasteless joke. Perhaps maybe he didn't know that Jada Pinkett Smith was suffering from that disease. If it was tasteless and poorly timed. Second, Will Smith for actually going up and slapping him in the face and an attempted battery. He should have been held accountable. He should have been escorted out immediately, and not there to pick up his Oscar. Thankfully, he has his PR agency, which is one of the top PR agencies this year in 2022. The statement that he ended up putting out a day after should have been the statement he should have read on the Oscar stage when he went to accept his Oscar. Third,
but I will say, sorry to step in. I will say to his defense, a lot of times when things happen, when you're heated, you can't actually speak eloquently. You can actually give thoughtful responses within 5 or 6 minutes, because that's the time that we're talking about was maybe 20 minutes between the slap into him actually going on stage to accept his award. But go ahead.
Yeah, but either way, I also, on top of blame being bestowed on them both, the blame also goes to the Academy for their poorly crisis management. They put a variety of different messaging that it got in the general public confused as to what really happened. Was Will Smith kicked off? Did he get arrested? Why did he stay there? There was no one cohesive messaging, one that was direct and factual to inform the audiences what truly happened. And so I also personally feel that that it might be a combination of, them trying to save face, but also trying to hold Will Smith accountable at the same time. But this is not surprising, since they have since some of the actors in their in their academy have done even worse things than Will Smith has done, and they were not held accountable for it. But overall, quickly just to wrap this up, this situation could have not come at a worse time for the Academy, since Oscar ratings have been on decline in the past several years. Last year was their lowest rated show in history. This year went up a little bit to about 16 million, but still relatively low. They're still selling out Oscar ad inventory despite the record lows, and we're seeing the shift from theater to streaming services, since now a lot of these major streaming companies like Netflix, Hulu, Amazon have been entering into the movie business and starting to develop high quality content. And it wasn't until Apple TV, who was last to enter into those streaming wars, they ended up being the first streaming company to win Best Picture. And so that that goes to show that that the streaming industry is here to stay. It's the future of the movie industry. And finally, just quickly to wrap up, many Americans are simply losing interest in the Academy Awards in general. And so this shocking altercation definitely got people talking. Definitely generated conversation. But as far as I'm concerned, from a reputational standpoint, the Academy has taken a hit. Will Smith has taken a hit. Chris Rock has taken a hit. So they're all three of them are going to have to come up with different PR strategies, to clean up the mess that was instigated on Sunday.
Yes, but more to come. This story, there's been so many different layers again to this story, but I think the one element we have not actually heard from since is Will Smith. Outside of that statement, Jada Pinkett Smith, and then Chris Rock himself. So I think as we're gonna start seeing more communication and more stories from our interviews from these individuals, we'll get more of a resolution. But it's something that I definitely feel like it was just I was disappointed in both of them.
I was shocked. I couldn't believe it when I first saw it with my own eyes. And there is a video, it has been circling around social media, of Will Smith. I think it was either the Japanese or the Australian version, where Will Smith clearly said, "Keep my wife's name out of your effing mouth." Leaked it out like dead set clearly. I don't know, to a stunned audience, both on the on the Kodak Theater and as well and watching at home. So yeah, definitely the story is definitely one to watch, and we're definitely going to continue offering our marketing and PR 2 cents on it. And I also want to quickly congratulate all of the winners who won Oscars that evening. Obviously, Coda, the cast of Coda, who won Best Picture, which made history in the in their own right. A beautiful story. So shout out to the entire cast, and as well as Jessica Chastain for winning her first Oscar. Ariana DeBose for West Side Story, Tony Kosor again for Coda. All the winners, congratulations to everybody. Unfortunately, this incident overshadowed what should have been a happy night for the recipients.
Yes, and definitely Ariana DeBose, like for her, that's actually huge. The first Afro-Latina and openly queer actor of color to win. That award between her and then if this incident didn't happen with Will Smith, between her winning and Will Smith winning, it could have been a great night. So unfortunately, we're stuck talking about the slap as it was forever be known as.
And the same can be said for Tony Kutsor's win. He becomes the first male deaf actor to win an Oscar for his supporting role performance in Coda, and also again a big night for the for the deaf community as well. Their movie was beautifully represented as it should be. And if anybody has not seen the movie Coda, please go on ahead and see it. It's actually a very beautiful tale. And yeah, congrats to all of the winners. This is a story that we're going to continue to keep watching. Unfortunately, it got overshadowed because of the slap. So we're definitely going to keep our eyes on it as this progresses, because it's way too juicy to not talk about it.
Yes.
All right. So with that wraps up our show for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. I told you it was such a jam-packed episode. Didn't you agree, Corey?
Oh, I can't believe we got through all the topics, but yeah, it was definitely jam-packed. I love it.
Absolutely. And so thank you everybody to the Marketer Pitch family for tuning in to episode 10, aka volume 22. We are now officially with this episode 3 episodes away from the season 2 finale. We're going to be offering more details about the podcast, about the intermission series, and season 3. Which as of right now is in discussion, and we can't wait to offer those tidbits in the final 2 episodes. Corey, is there anything else that you would like to mention?
No, I would just say for everyone, if you have any thoughts about any topics we talked about, or you agree with us or disagree with us, please email the inbox. We love to just look at your questions. We love to hear from you guys. So please give us your feedback.
All right. Thank you so much, my friend. And don't forget to everybody, like, share, comment, subscribe. Please hit those subscribe buttons and leave us also a 5-star rating. We definitely want to hear your feedback across major podcasting mediums. This episode will be uploaded and will be available live early next week. So keep an eye out for it. Available on all major podcasting mediums, YouTube, and airing Thursday mornings on the Helium Radio Network. Follow us on Twitter, on Instagram at Marketer Pitch. We got some exciting updates coming up in the pipeline, so you don't want to miss that. Thank you, Corey. Thank you, Marketer Pitch family, for tuning in to episode 10, aka volume 22. And we will see you next time for episode 11, aka volume 23 of Marketer Pitch. Take care, everyone. Bye.
Bye, everyone.